What's up guys? Today we're going to be checking out the brand new Marantz Amp 10 16 channel amplifier and see how it compares to the XTZ A2-400 amplifier. Okay, for setup, I'm going to be hooking up the Marantz to my turn-up altitude processor. As far as demos, I'm going to be using a Kaleidoscape and a Zapiti media player. So the first demo that we're going to drop in is A Quiet Place. It's one of my favorite demos. It's something that's going to really make your speakers come alive with a lot of ambiance and a lot of subtle detail. Now it's kind of hard to tell over a YouTube video because it's going to be highly compressed. Plus, I've got about 16 channels in my own home theater, whereas on YouTube, it's only 2 channels. If you were here with me, the main thing that I could tell when I was comparing it to my own McIntosh amplifiers is that the soundstage, as far as like depth and also horizontal expansion, seemed a little bit more enclosed and a lot more intimate sounding. It still gave me a sense that I was outside, but it didn't quite make my speakers disappear the way my McIntosh amplifiers do. I would say that it sounds very much like every Marantz receiver I've ever heard in my life. So it has that slight warmthness to it. I was talking to Gene over on Audioholics and he was kind of implying that it might be Marantz's HDAM circuitry. So whatever the HDAM is doing is kind of making everything sound a lot warmer than what I'm used to. So if you want to check out his review, he's also going to bench test it and also give his impressions on what the sound signature sounds like. So the next demo we're going to check out is Ready Player One. This is a very dynamic soundtrack which is going to make all of your speakers come to life. Definitely demo worthy. So just like A Quiet Place, I felt like the dynamics were there. It could hit really nicely. I was running all my speakers full range, by the way. So it was pushing my speakers as much as they possibly could. So it was kind of maximizing the Marantz's output, which to say isn't much because my Ascendo speakers aren't exactly full range, but I just wanted to see how dynamic this amplifier could be on its own. It definitely had no problems driving all 16 of my speakers. Again, I would say just the top end details kind of lacking, but still, I still got some pretty nice depth and separation. That was always fine. I still didn't get the making your speakers disappear into your room kind of aspect. Like I said, with A Quiet Place, it definitely sounded more intimate, almost like I was in maybe a mixing studio, like everything was kind of near field. I kind of got that impression with it. With this movie, I think if you've seen Ready Player One, this is one of those action movies that you're just gonna blast super loud because there's so much going on. And if your speakers are bright or if you have a bright amplifier, I could see where this movie would kind of become a little bit ear piercing. But with the Marantz, because it does have that warm sound signature, I felt that no matter what level that I turned up the volume, it was always just pleasant to listen to. It could be because of the HDAM. I think as far as like Marantz's own sound signature, this is definitely in line with every Marantz receiver that I've ever heard, which always had this somewhat rolled off top end. All right, so let's take a quick look at the Marantz. Up front, you can see there's a power button. There's a little porthole that gives you the dB meter. There's the meter on-off button, and there's a dimmer button which will dim the lights that illuminate on each side of the amplifier. The front fascia is made out of a very thick aluminum, and the overall build quality is very impressive. Also nice build quality is the XTZ amplifier. There's nothing fancy about this amplifier, it's just a very small, simple aluminum box. Nothing up front except for the XTZ logo. So now we know what the amplifier sounds like, powering 16 channels. It's a beast of an amplifier, right? But it's very hard to tell what the amp actually sounds like as far as like sound signature. So the best way to do that is to hook it up to a 2-channel setup. So in my 2-channel setup, I've got a pair of Perlisten R5T towers, and I'm also going to be comparing it with the XTZs. Around back, we have binding posts for all 16 channels. Each module has its own separate controller, which you can see up top here. There's a switch for either unbalanced RCA or balanced XLRs. There's 3 different selections here for biamp mode, which will let you use each module to biamp your speakers if you have biampable speakers. So one side could be for your tweeters, the other side could be for your woofers. There's normal mode, and then the last selection is BTL, which is biamp mode. So this amplifier is rated at 200 watts per channel into 8 ohms, or if you put it into bridge mode, it's rated at 400 watts per channel into 4 ohms. Now, if you have all 5 channels driven under normal mode, it is rated at 200 watts per channel. Although if you have all your channels driven, it's supposed to give you about 70% of its rated output. Now, I don't have the proper gear to bench test this, so we're gonna have to wait to see what Gene over in Audioholic says after he bench tests his unit. Around back, we have the main power switch, the power inlet, trigger, 3 power options, always on, trigger, or auto on. There are unbalanced RCA inputs, a gain control, balanced XLR inputs, a selection switch for RCA or XLR, and another switch for either stereo mode or in bridge mode. And just like the Marantz amplifier, both of these amplifiers are running Ice Edge Class D modules. This one is rated at 2x420 watts into 4 ohms or 2x220 watts into 8 ohms. If you run this bridged, this will put out 800 watts into 8 ohms. So the one thing that I noticed when I was listening to movies was that some of that extra spaciousness just wasn't there. And I kind of experienced the same thing while listening to 2-channel music. And what I mean by that is that the high frequency detail is just rolled off so much in the respect where it's really kind of collapsing the soundstage and it's bringing everything a bit forward sounding. It's very warm overall, especially compared to the XTZ. XTZ sounds a lot more open. There's a lot more detail on the top end. Although I would say like mid-range, maybe the bottom end on the Marantz is a slightly fuller sounding. Since it's got that warm texture to it, it just sounds like it's a little bit more rounder or beefier on the bottom end. But where the XTZ really shines, again, is gonna be in the top end detail. So when you're listening to vocals with a lot of S's, S's sound like S rather than sh. So on the Marantz, if I was to say, I like to suck on apples, XTZ sounds like I like to suck on apples, where Marantz would sound like I like to shuck on apples. So there's a difference with the Marantz. It's just like cutting off the top end. Sweet Jane, sweet Jane, sweet Jane, sweet Jane. Very much like THX's Re-EQ back in the day, or even in Onkyo's AVRs, they also have Re-EQ, which shaves off the top end, which kind of keeps that edge and sharpness off of movie soundtracks. So if you're listening at really loud volumes, that edginess and harshness is going to be a lot easier on your ears when you're blasting 16 channels all at the same time. I don't think you want that for 2-channel music because you are lacking that extra spaciousness and air and ultra fine detail. I did prefer the bass and the mid-range slightly more in the Marantz, but the extra detail and clarity on the XTZ just kind of blows away the Marantz. Pretty much every aspect of it, just soundstage depth, clarity, crispness. I would say that with my Perlisten speakers and also with the little RSL speakers as well, the amount of detail that it gave both those speakers was just like levels above the Marantz. And like I said, the horizontal expansion, also the depth-wise on the XTZ, just so much better than the Marantz. The thing was, I first was reviewing the RSL speakers, and I was thinking to myself, man, I said, these speakers, they do not sound good at all, and I've read a lot of good reviews on them. So I figured, why not just compare them to the Perlisten? And the Perlisten, they sounded identical. Like the Perlistens just didn't sound good at all, and I know what these speakers sound like. So I figured, all right, so it's not the speakers, it's gotta be the Marantz. I switched it over to the XTZ and it was just like the heavens opened up and I got a whole ton of detail just out of nowhere. So much more detail. So I mean, if you're gonna use a 16-channel amplifier, this Marantz 16-channel amplifier, it's probably gonna perform a lot better for home theater rather than it would for your 2-channel setup. So at the time of this video, the Marantz Amp 10 is selling for $7,000. The XTZ amplifier is selling for $1,099. For me personally, I probably wouldn't go for the Marantz amplifier because I just found it lacked the kind of detail that I expect from my movie soundtracks. And also, if you're gonna use it for a dual purpose system, I just felt like the detail was lacking. I know a lot of people like that specific sound, but for me personally, I'm not that much of a fan of it. I could see maybe if you had some brighter speakers, maybe the Marantz would just take that edginess and harshness out of it, and kind of tone it down. So I could see if your speakers were bright, then the Marantz might be a good fit for you. For me personally, I do like a slightly more brighter sound, more detail, so the XTZ amplifier would definitely be my choice. So the Marantz for 16 channels, we're looking at $7,000. If you get 8 XTZ amplifiers, you're looking at a little over $8,000. And the good thing about the XTZs is that if you buy them all separately, you can run them as monoblocks the same way as the Marantz, but if you're doing monoblocks, you can get up to 800 watts per channel. Now, if you want to pick up the Marantz, I'll leave some links down below in the video's description, or visit valueelectronics.com. Just let them know that we sent you. Well, anyways, guys, those are my thoughts on the Marantz Amp 10 16-channel amplifier and the XTZ A400 2-channel amplifier / monoblock. Have you guys gotten a chance to hear any of these amplifiers? And if so, leave your thoughts down below and let me know which way you would spend your money. Would you go with the Marantz, or would you go with the XTZ? Leave your comments down below and let me know. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video if you found it useful and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again in the next video.